Hi, and welcome to my channel, dedicated to sharpening your tactical air combat skills in DCS World through realistic concepts and practical tools. Over the past few weeks, I've put together on my Patreon a detailed breakdown of how to deliver Paveway II laser-guided bombs in DCS, not just from high altitude, but across a range of real-world inspired profiles. For all the passes shown today, we're working from a rough mark point created from about 35 miles. Close enough for coordinate-based delivery and well within the bomb's terminal guidance envelope. The workflow is straightforward. Designate the general target area, create a mark point, undesignate, and then use waypoint designate to confirm we're in target area for auto-release. Final pod corrections can be made just before or even after release. The initial designation doesn't need to be perfect. If you're reasonably close, the laser will ensure terminal accuracy. We'll start with the most common, level bombing. The geometry is simple. Fly straight and level, and release at a fixed distance from the target. It's recommended to fly fast, ideally near a true airspeed of 540 knots or Mach 0.89 at high altitude, to give the bomb as much initial energy as possible. Since the GBU follows an almost pure ballistic arc, predicting the release point is possible. In today's example, from 15,000 feet AGL, release should occur about 4.3 nautical miles out. Time of flight increases with altitude. Here we're looking at around 35 seconds. For fuse arming, 14 to 20 seconds is ideal. That keeps you outside the frag envelope, even without an aggressive brake turn. The trade-off? Predictability. You're stable, high, and easy to spot. It's effective in permissive environments, but not where threat is a serious factor. Watch the release distance. Note the TOF in the pod. Smooth egress. No need to get fancy here. Arming delay was 14 seconds. Safe margin, no hard maneuver needed. Dive bombing is the second most common profile, and it's highly effective, especially for moving targets or in close air support scenarios. We'll start with the direct dive. You're flying level, then at a pre-planned distance roll inverted and pull down toward the target. Release happens while still diving in CCIP or during a constant G-pull if you're using CCRP. The steeper the dive angle, the shorter the time to aim at the target, and the shorter the weapon's time of flight. In a 30-degree dive with release around 10,000 feet AGL, TOF drops to just 15 seconds compared to the previous 28 seconds in level bombing. That allows for a shorter arming delay, typically between 6 and 8 seconds, depending on altitude. Impact speed is high, often over 300 meters per second. And because you're nose down on the target, laser inner visibility is generally excellent throughout the terminal phase. The downside? You're exposed, especially to AAA and man pads. And if you mismanage your escape, you also risk flying into your own frag pattern. A sharp, max performance pullout is essential immediately after release. Bomb out at 10,500 feet AGL. Note the initial egress maneuver. We're keeping clear of our own frag envelope. The second dive method, the circling. It's very often used in close air support when you're building SA around the target. The idea is to maintain a constant visual or pod track while orbiting, then pull into the dive at the correct moment. Here we orbit at about 5.5 nautical miles, then turn in with a 10-degree anticipation. This helps line up with the final attack heading. Release is again around 10,000 feet, same dive angle, same time of flight and arming delay. Last dive variant, the pop-up. Approach low level, pull up sharply just before the target, then reverse into a short dive. This gives you surprise, keeps you below radar for most of the approach, and avoids early exposure. But Reiki gets demanding. Short timelines, late TGP lock, and narrow windows for lacing. You need a solid training in order to be successful. Our reference pass climbs to an apex at 7,500 feet AGL and dives at 30 degrees. Weapons time of flight can be as low as 8 to 9 seconds, the minimum necessary for a successful Paveway or guidance. It's here that you'll selected the lowest arming delay of 6 seconds. We come in low and fast. 250 feet and 540 knots is a good start. If you want to be established on the correct final attack heading, you need to anticipate the geometry. Plus or minus 35 degrees is needed in order to be correctly lined up in the dive. Note the apex, 7,500 feet. We reverse cleanly to the target, get a stable dive, and start lacing immediately after bomb release. Here you can see a comparison of all 3 dive profiles side by side. You can clearly see how each one trades off altitude, geometry, and exposure. Let's continue with the last profiles, loft and toss bombing. For loft bombing, we'll do a low-level ingress, then pull up to release the bomb on a roughly 1G climbing trajectory. You're staying masked until the last moment, releasing at a chosen climb angle, typically 25 to 30 degrees, and more importantly, at a chosen altitude. I recommend less than 5,000 feet AGL in order to keep the surprise effect. With a release height of 3,500 feet and a 30-degree climb, weapons time of flight is about 34 seconds. The recommended arming delay is 14 seconds. The only reason to make it shorter is if you want to be able to use other release profiles in the same mission. Post-release, we quickly take a 20-degree breakaway, stop climbing, and hold about 30-degree angle of bank until impact to manage the laser geometry. That part is the most difficult one, since you'll frequently reach the mast just after the impact time. If you fly too fast, or if you bank too much, you'll be in the mast before impact, and the terminal bomb's trajectory will be unpredictable. Also, manual lacing is recommended, in particular because weapons' time of flight can be 4 to 5 seconds longer than what has been predicted by the weapon system. Toss bombing is similar, but the release happens during the pull-up, not in constant climb. We release at a similar angle, but from lower altitude and therefore closer to target. Speed drops fast. Don't hesitate to use afterburner while you are nose up. The 270-degree turn after release is designed to manage masking. I have no proof this was ever used operationally, but in DCS, it works perfectly. Note that the egress turn is a maximum performance turn. Use afterburner during the whole turn and manage your pull to keep a speed around 450 knots. Watch the full 270-degree reversal. We stay masked during the first 20 seconds, then easily reacquire the target in a shallow turn. Here you can see both loft and toss bombing in parallel, with the 2 egress options. You can see how each egress path changes the line of sight, and therefore the masking geometry. Mask management is easier in the 270-degree turn, but it requires a very dynamic flying. Whether you go level, dive, toss, or loft, every profile has trade-offs. Level is clean and safe, but predictable. Dive gives you precision and visibility, but with higher risk. Toss and loft let you stay masked and create standoff, but they demand strict geometry and a solid understanding of your aircraft's energy. Whatever profile you fly, the key is preparation. Use planning tools. Set the right fuse delay, understand your time of flight. And always think 2 steps ahead, where you're lacing from and where you're going next. All the kneeboard pages that you've seen here are available on my Patreon. They were built from sim data and tested in mission. They'll help you make real choices, not guesses. Thanks for watching, and see you next time for the Buddy Lacing series.